And welcome to America Talks Live. I'm Bill Tucker filling in for Steve today. We want your participation on this show, so give us a call at 877-NEWSMAX. That's 877-639-7629. Kicking off our show today, our political panel. And joining me today on this panel is Noelle Nikpour. She's a Republican strategist, political consultant, author of Branding America. Definite upgrade on the set from my next guest, Sam Nunberg, who is a former Trump campaign advisor. Guys, welcome. Thanks for being here.
I agree.
Don't you?
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's start with the latest news, which is the polls. Mm-hmm. There's two ways you can look at these polls. The LA Times poll puts him up by 6 points. Mm-hmm. You could also argue, as the folks over at CBS and New York Times do, that it's really not a Donald Trump rise, it's a Clinton collapse. So, Noelle, let's start with you. What, if anything, do you make of these polls?
Either way you look at it, it's got Trump on the top. When you say a Clinton collapse, it still puts Trump on the top. And I think that right now what's happening, I actually attribute a lot of this to what happened with that little clip of a video of Hillary Clinton not feeling well and stumbling. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, wow, you know, she lied about the fact that she had any illness at all. And people are thinking, gosh, is this what we're going to get used to? You know, a 4-year administration of cover-ups and the same old kind of systematic politics as usual. Donald Trump, you know, for all his good things, his bad things, his early on name calling is actually starting to look presidential. He promised us if he won the nomination, he would start to be a formidable candidate. And this is exactly what we're seeing at the very end.
Do you think that analysis is right, Sam?
Yeah, I certainly think that the Hillary Clinton video of her falling and showing that basically the campaign lied about it. They flat out lied. And imagine if we didn't have like a citizen journalist. You know, we live in new times now. With citizen, somebody was able just to take their phone and just show you that. And, you know, it goes more to the mantra. You had the emails released. You have more of the Clinton Foundation controversy. And then, of course, she says basket of deplorables, which is never, I don't think it's a defining moment in the campaign. I don't necessarily think the 47% for Romney was either, but I think that it's certainly not good to say that to anyone. You're not going to gain voters by that, right? This is sales. On the other hand, like I think we were discussing too,
right.
I would go with the analysis that Donald is not, until I see him, frankly, and I'm always a glass half empty guy, and I still work at that capacity that I was working for him, until I see him genuinely go up. So I'll see him maybe it'll be 45%. Until I see the fact that this race is ultimately going to be a referendum on Hillary Clinton as opposed to him, which I'm not sure he's going to be able to do when Obama starts campaigning. Well, I don't think he can win.
But Nicole, I want to take our issue with one thing you say. If it in fact is a Clinton collapse, all she has to do is be better when she goes out on the road. And we don't know what that takes to be better. But all she's got to do is appear more energetic, appear more engaged. Once you present those appearances, doesn't the specter rise up for Trump? Now we've got an energized, now we've got an alert and focused Hillary Clinton.
You know, how can she be that energized? How can, you know, you've got to look at what she's done and how she's campaigned all along. She has not really been an energizer. Joe Biden has more energy than she does. And I think a lot of it is she has a problem, and she's always had this problem of connectability.
Well, no, I understand that, but you know, there's a saying.
Even more energy is not going to make a difference.
But there's a saying in the theater that nothing focuses the mind like a full bladder while you're on stage. You know, and that's where she's at now. She's at the point where she knows she has to improve her performance, or it really literally is all over in terms of
physically, is she going to be able to have an energetic appearance? Physically, we really don't even know if pneumonia, flu, or whatever is really wrong with her. We don't, for all we know, it could have been a seizure, it could have been something else. And that's the basis to this. Americans do not fully trust her.
I agree with that, but Noelle, what's he going to say at the debate when she starts saying, well, he starts saying, no, you don't release your medical report, I release it. So she goes, I like to see your taxes.
So what?
I like to see your taxes. What does he say to that?
It'll be a wash. Think about it. A lot of people don't, they don't think that Donald Trump is in this for the right reasons or whatnot, and they certainly know with the background of Hillary Clinton, it's going to pretty much be a wash.
Yeah, she's a completely unlikable likable character, and I think also one thing we should also mention though too is unfortunately she has a better organization than him. That's just the fact. It's just the fact.
But Bernie Sanders almost ate her lunch. I mean, look about that.
She won the primary by 3 million votes.
She had more money raised, and she had a lot of people for her when she ran against Obama, and he smoked her. And then, Bernie Sanders, a self-proclaimed socialist, comes up right on her heels.
I'm not saying she's a strong
almost
candidate.
Like anybody
Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Hillary Clinton special advocate here. What I'm saying
trying
is
to
that would be one weird turnabout.
Right. What I'm saying is that when we think about these polls too, let's hypothetically give her a point or point and a half, take a point away from him also because of the organization's just terrible.
Let's
It's
talk
just,
about. I do want to talk about this health thing just a little bit. In fact, I want to run a soundbite from Big Bill, who was out serving as the #1 surrogate, and we don't have that yet. But what he said basically was, for the sake of our audience, is that he got out on the campaign trail. He misspoke, said she has the flu. Millions of people get the flu every year. He conveniently ignored that 36,000 Americans die of the flu every year as well. So
older.
Yeah, and older.
Americans.
I don't understand, though. Do you really think the health issue counts?
Oh.
Do you think it counts?
I think it's enormous.
Winston Churchill was a drunk. He got up every
Doesn't
morning and he
matter.
drank all day long, and he was a tremendous leader. William Taft couldn't fit in the bathtub, so goes the legend, but he served as president and he served as Supreme Court justice. So just to be that
being sick, and think about this: when you have, every American can relate to the fact, if you've ever been sick, when you have the flu, when you have an illness like that, you can't really think or do much of anything. You're exhausted. You don't feel well. You're either nauseous. You have low energy. You really cannot be making a lot of decisions. Look what happened to her when she had the problem with the concussion and the blood clot, and her doctor only allowed her to come in for 2 hours at a time to be briefed on national security. I mean, this is not. She should have learned from there. I mean, this is not good to have somebody in this.
And we've also seen various emails, whether it was from Uma Abedin when those emails were released, of her saying certain things about, you have to be very careful with Hillary. She doesn't remember certain things. But there's just a Colin Powell email release where a donor says, "I saw Hillary. She couldn't even step on the podium." I think this is a legitimate. One, it is a legitimate issue, but two, I do think it would affect voters. So you never really, there's millions and millions of voters out there. They're going to have millions and millions of reasons. So I would say she better shoot up on vitamin B before she gets out on that debate.
Well, I just don't know that it's an effective argument, because and this is the simple reason why. I think people are going to vote for Trump. This is great, and this is another reason confirming their choice. But I think that people who are going to vote for her are going to vote for her no matter what. And I have friends who are absolutely committed, no matter how many emails come out, no matter if a doctor's report came out tomorrow and said she wasn't well, they'd be like,
It's the same argument. It's the same argument we have every year in a political cycle regarding presidential. The independent voter, the guy on the fence, the woman on the fence that doesn't know whether to go here or go here, and they're going to be looking at these candidates. And I think the icing on the cake here is that Hillary Clinton may be too feeble, too physical, looking too physically sick, to run. She's still not back at it. She's been giving these phone interviews. This is day 3 or 4, and she's still not. This is a critical time.
And this is controlling news cycles too. I mean, it's not only we're not only talking about Newsmax or Fox News. We're talking about New York Times, CNN, MSNBC. All the national news. So I mean,
they're
this
defining
is
the narrative, and it's about her sickness, her weakness,
if
physical
this election
weakness.
is a referendum on Hillary Clinton, and you don't think about Barack Obama, Donald Trump can win and probably would win. If this election is a referendum on Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton will win. Yeah, that's just the bottom line here. Neither side is a very good candidate. I'm sorry.
This is really a weak place to argue. This is like horrible. We don't trust him. We don't trust her, but we trust him more than we trust her.
It's also about money. Look at this. Trump is starting to get a really big lead. And, I think this is going to help him with fundraising, because you can show these to people that were like almost never Trump, and these people that are, I'm not going to give yet. And you could say, you know what, you better get on the train, because this guy is starting to close it in Florida and Ohio. And look at this going on. Right. So you better get on the money train. So all of a sudden, if we see her, her health is like this and her fundraising is just status quo, and then you've got Trump making a surge, not only in the poll, but the fundraising, that is going to scream runaway election.
Well, and Sam, this begs the question. They made no secret of the fact, they being the Trump camp, look, you're not with us. As far as we're concerned, you're against us. And they've really made it very clear to the Never Trump people. They've made it clear to the Republicans who won't get behind them and who are in Congress. You're going to be cut off from the power. You're going to be cut off from the juice if you don't jump on this train. There's a certain veracity to what Noelle says in terms of that money starts to move. Will it start to move those people?
Well, I think certainly. I think the money comes in. So Noelle knows she's a good fundraiser. I certainly think so. But here's one issue though too, is going to be what can that money do? because you have a lot of the ad time already taken up now. I just look at this as a strategy. You have a lot of the ad time already taken up.
Ground game.
Exactly,
Yeah.
ground game. So if he's able to do that, you get more staff, and then he can possibly match her, almost match her per staff. I think that would make a big deal. Look, ground game counts. It's just the reality.
And
here.
it's image too. When you start, anytime you see anything number-wise moving up, whether it's polls and money, it just looks like a winner. If you put your name and my name, and you put, just a number of 50,000, and you just have a number of 46,000, just if you flash that, it looks like, oh, she's the winner.
Yeah.
So you have a numbers perception as well.
It's very interesting. I want to go to a totally different topic, and it'll probably go over to the next block. And if you're listening and you've got something to say, don't forget to give us a call at 877-NEWS-MAX. But this has to do with the Anthem controversy, if you will. It started with Colin Kaepernick, spread to some other teams. It's spreading beyond the football field. We've got the entertainers, Chris Brown, some other entertainers are taking up the cause as well. And then we have this representative out in Missouri who says he will not, in fact he sat, if we got the video, we can roll it. He sat during the national anthem when he was out in Missouri. And he refused to take the Pledge of Allegiance. You can see her sitting down back there in the back. And my question is, this is a person of power. This is a person in a position of responsibility. I was doing some research for a story that I was going to turn for Facebook. When you look at the NFL players who participated in Week 1, their combined salaries are more than $328 million. This is how much money they've actually earned. Okay?
How much do they donate to charity?
That's my point. This is where I want to go with this.
Right.
Nothing speaks in America like money, which is why Noelle kicked this topic off in my mind. It's money. These people, these men, these women, whoever they are, have money. They can make a difference. Why aren't they doing something that brings us together? Or is there anything they could do that could bring us together as a country on this, as opposed to divide us?
It's almost like it's the thing to do. It's almost like it's the latest craze. It's almost like it's a flash mob dance in a mall. I mean, this is, getting publicity if you take up and take a stance against the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance or anything that questions, being a patriot, making your silent stance. It's just kind of it's the latest craze. This is going to fade. This is
we'll see. We're going to continue to talk about this. I'm going to stop you now, but when we return, we're going to talk about this some more, along with a couple other topics. But again, we want you to play 877-NEWS-MAX. It's 877-639-7629. Don't go away. And welcome back to America Talks Live. I'm Bill Tucker, filling in for Steve today. This is live, and we want to hear from you. Remember that. Give us a call at 877-NEWS-MAX, 877-639-7629. We're talking with our political panel today. Noelle Nikpour, Republican strategist. She could be president one day too. Why not?
I love the title.
Political consultant and author of Branding America. And joining with Noelle and myself is Sam Nunberg. He's a former Trump campaign advisor and a Republican strategist as well. We were talking about polls in the first block of the show. The big concern about Donald Trump being at the top of this ticket was that he was going to hurt the down ticket. There would be no coattails for anybody to ride. In fact, there were going to be Republicans at the lower level were going to said to be running away from him. Are you seeing Republicans run away from him, Sam?
Very rarely. There have been some instances, but nothing. Certainly not in the races I'm working in. And I can tell you that our candidates, we're talking about it. Somebody like Richard Burr is helping Donald Trump in North Carolina. Portman. Donald Trump wins Ohio. One of the main reasons is going to be Rob Portman.
Well, it's interesting because I was in Ohio this past weekend producing an interview with Senator Portman, and I was surprised at the warmness in which Portman embraced the Trump trade agenda, the Trump economic agenda. He was very friendly toward him, which surprised me in a way.
Well, you have to look at this. I recently, I lost my primary in Florida, in House District Florida 18, and I was one of the first candidates that came out and endorsed Trump, and I'll tell you why I did it. I got a lot of flack for doing it, with people all over the U.S., but you have to look at least my district, which was Allen West old seat, which Patrick Murphy took, and now he's running for Rubio. But you have to look at the district there. It overwhelmingly voted for Trump. So, like it or not, I think that you've got to look at some of those votes. And Florida is a purple state. It could really go either way. And the fact that Trump has such strong ties to Florida and Hillary Clinton really does not, I think that he has got and to your point with Rubio, I think it's a good combination for him to walk away with Florida. And I don't care what they say. I think if he cinches Ohio and Florida and a couple of other states, I think he's got it in the bag.
You know, another thing too is that you got to remember, if you're a Republican and you flat out disown Donald Trump, I think McCain is the only one really doing it publicly. That means you're an advocate for Hillary Clinton and her agenda, right? Now you can say, look, I'm here and I'm going to work to make sure that the Senate, to preserve bicameralism, to preserve, fight against the imperial presidency, something along those lines, and to say, here's my agenda that I'm going to set forth and fight for, and here are the principles I will. But if you say, look, I don't trust Donald Trump as president, and you have an R next to your name, does that mean you really want the most corrupt person probably running for the presidency of all time?
That has been the thing that puzzled me during the Romney campaign the last time around, and in this one as well, is that the talk show hosts largely are, especially like Mark Levin and a couple others, really loudly anti-Trump. And I want to call them up and go, thank you, yes. Where do you want them to go?
Gary Johnson has no idea where anything is in the overseas.
Well, and whose record in New Mexico as two-time governor was not that great.
I think
you're right.
Well, specifically on Mark, he's a personal friend, so I'd have to say his point is, look, he said he's voting for him. He hasn't endorsed him, but his point is, look, Donald's not a conservative. I think Rush Limbaugh said yesterday.
He's like most of America, I would argue. He's centrist.
Rush Limbaugh said if the issue is big government, that if you're voting on big government or small government, and you want to vote for small government, you don't have a candidate in this race right now. So I think that it's more of him preserving conservative principles within the party. But yes, there are certain people that would just want to throw it up. For instance, Eric Erickson, somebody like that.
Right.
You want to lose.
If you question Donald Trump's conservatism, you have to look at this. Look who he picked for vice president. This was a guy that actually wanted Ted Cruz in his state. He supported Ted Cruz over Donald Trump. He actually made the better pick. He picked somebody that was true blue conservative. I mean, this guy, socially conservative, this guy all the way around. So if you want to know, if you question whether or not Donald Trump is a conservative, look at his picks.
I do know, though, he had to be almost prodded, I even say cattle prodded, not to take Christie. I agree with you, not to take Christie. That should also show you where his mindset is. I'm not arguing.
He listened to good advice.
He listened to good advice. By the way, give Paul Manafort credit for that. That was Paul's choice.
Which one?
It was Mike Pence. Other people wanted Newt Gingrich, who would have been terrible.
Now, I think Newt's so knowledgeable. Can you imagine the VP debate with Newt Gingrich and Tim Kaine?
You want somebody
eaten lunch.
Maybe I go by. I think Pence is great. He's conservative, and he's vanilla.
I love
He's not an issue.
No.
He's not an issue, right?
He is the perfect vice president.
Right.
I don't put much faith or trust in vice presidents because they're usually political picks.
Well, but with Donald Trump,
to balance it out.
They were really looking to see, this is going to be one of the first things that Donald Trump was going to be able to, pick to, be his sidekick if something happened. So the VP pick for Donald Trump was much more important than it ever has been because people didn't even know how he was going to govern. He'd had mixed statements of being for something and against something. He looked like the Riddler. He had question marks. No one knew. So his VP pick was very important, and I think he nailed it.
And by the way, that helps in the Senate race.
It
does help in the Senate race. In Indiana, it helps in the Senate race. If Bai loses, one of the main reasons is because Pence is in the ticket.
You got it.
Well, no, the thing I like about Pence is that for me, is that he brings the experience to the ticket. He's somebody who's been there, who understands the process of government. I mean, it is great for me, from my personal perspective, that we have a businessman running. I think we need to bring more business to the ticket, but to get that done, you've got to deal with that nasty thing called process, which I really hate. I have no patience for. I also don't have any patience for a different topic. The House Republicans, they reached a deal where they are not going to proceed with an impeachment vote on the IRS. That does not make any sense to me. The explanation being, oh, well, you know what, we're going to put it off for a couple of days and let the commissioner testify before the committee so we can all hear his testimony, and then we're going to take it up again, which smells like so much horse hockey.
They probably figured if they impeached him, then Trump's taxes would be leaked. I know, this is one of the main reasons why, look, when I was with Donald too, I mean, one of the main reasons Donald campaigned, they make these grandiose promises. They can never hold Obama or government accountable because they are government. You know, Scalia once said, I was at a lecture he gave, and it was before the Obamacare decision was issued, and he said, one thing you have to remember, he didn't tell us the decision obviously, but he said, one thing you have to remember is no matter what's, no matter if you think somebody's a conservative or Republican, when they get to government there, they never want to give up power. They just never do.
Well, no, I wouldn't. Frankly, if I had, I mean, really, there's a lot of honesty here between you, me, and all those out there. If I had power, why would I want to give it up? And the truth is that they don't have to, because in a bad year, and you both know this.
Obama used the IRS to persecute
his
political opponents.
Do you remember that? Do you remember, the people that were trying to, back in the day after, his election, that were trying to get PAC status and 521 status with some organizations that if they had Patriot or if they had any Tea Party, Express, anything that they could not get.
And that's an attack on their First Amendment rights.
That's horrible. And so people don't have trust in the IRS either. So.
Right. And that's what's happening. No accountability. This man, he took evidence, he destroyed it,
right,
and he just lied. He committed perjury, and so this is another thing. Look, it's another something else. We can go off topic here too. But one of the main things when I worked for Donald, he made that McCain comment. One of the things we were able to say, we got out of it, was because we said McCain specifically went against the VA scandal. He didn't hold Obama responsible for it. In fact, he helped Obama out of it. So, this is the problem with the Republicans. They make these promises and they never deliver, and they just don't fight. They're not fighters. And by the way, the Democrats, they destroy Republican presidents. Remember, think about the controversies we've had. Bush fires some Justice Department career people, which was his right. This is a major scandal. They have some paper pusher
at this. Why are Republicans like this? I had 2 Republican strategists right here. So I'll hold you 2 accountable. Why aren't Republicans more in the dog fight, if you will?
Well, you've got, I guess if you want to look at one thing, you remember when Ted Cruz did the very unpopular thing? It was actually, a lot of people liked it, some people didn't, about holding the government responsible and holding their feet to the fire, and then having basically a standoff to where, the government was shut down.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people are fearful. That really kind of turned against Republicans. A lot of people were upset, saying, I'm not getting my check. You Republicans, you don't care about people. So I think that could have a little bit to do with the fact that Republicans are hesitant about taking on the government so viciously that they, stop. They just have a stop to the entire process, just like when
I was so happy. I would be thrilled if they shut the government down for
a month. Did, but do you remember
2
when
months,
people
3.
looked at the Republican Party as,
But
I can't eat?
and I'll give you the last word on this. You got like 20 seconds, Sam. Why didn't the Republicans come out and go, you know what, yeah, we did that and we did it because of this? And instead, they all ran home like wet dogs and cried.
They operate under the assumption that they're going to lose every battle. I think, being in Washington with the media and the bureaucrats, and it's weak leadership. But I don't know why, because when you fight, you win.
No,
I don't know why.
Exactly right. It's like somebody needs to give them a book on the power of positive thinking. All right, guys, thanks so much. Noelle, thank you. Sam, thanks. When we come back, we'll be joined by Tim Graham. He is the Director of Media Analysis for the Media Research Center, and we're going to discuss the latest examples of left-wing media bias, and we'll have Steve's interview with author Jack Cashel. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.